If your parent never screamed, never hit you, never called you names, but somehow after every conversation with them you walked away feeling small, guilty, not quite good enough, that's not a coincidence. There's a type of parenting almost nobody talks about because from the outside it looks completely normal, loving even. The neighbors think they're wonderful. Your friends probably say, "You're so lucky your mom is so nice," but you know something they don't. Today we're breaking down 7 signs of this hidden pattern, and by the end, you might finally understand why you still feel like something is missing, and even though on paper nothing was ever wrong, let's get into it. Picture this. You're 24, you just got a promotion at work, something you worked years for. You call your mom excited, ready to celebrate, and she says, "That's nice, honey. Did I tell you about Linda's daughter? She just made partner at her law firm." You laugh it off, you tell yourself she didn't mean anything by it, but that night lying in bed, you feel that familiar weight in your chest, the one you felt 1,000 times before, and you can't quite name it. You're not angry, you're not devastated, you're just deflated. Again, if this sounds familiar, keep watching, because what you just experienced has a name, and it's not sensitivity, it's not overthinking, it's a response to something real. Covert narcissism is different from the version we see in movies. There's no screaming, no obvious cruelty, no dramatic outbursts. Instead, it's quiet, it's subtle, it works through comparison, through guilt, through withdrawal of warmth, never through open aggression. A covert narcissistic parent doesn't need to raise their voice to control you. They just need you to feel like love is conditional, like it has to be earned, like you're never quite enough to deserve it freely. And because there's no yelling, no bruises, nothing you can point to and say, "That was wrong," you grow up confused. You start to believe the problem must be you, that you're too sensitive, too needy, too much. You're not. Let's look at the signs. Your achievements were never quite enough. Every accomplishment got a but. Good grades, why not straight A's, a great job, when are you getting promoted again? It wasn't about pushing you to grow, it was about making sure you never landed on solid ground, because a child who feels satisfied is a child who stops seeking approval. And approval was the currency they controlled. Your emotions were an inconvenience. When you cried, you weren't comforted. You were told you were too dramatic. When you were upset, somehow the conversation shifted to how your reaction was affecting them. You learned early, feelings are messy, feelings are a burden, feelings should be hidden. So you got very good at performing fine. You were the mature one before you were even a teenager. You comforted them when they were stressed. You kept the peace between them and other family members. You became a tiny emotional caretaker in a body too small for that job. This has a name too, parentification. And it teaches a child something devastating, that their worth comes from what they give, not who they are. Comparison was a constant undercurrent. Siblings, cousins, the neighbor's kid, a stranger's LinkedIn post. Someone was always doing it better, not to motivate you, to keep you reaching permanently for a finish line that kept moving. Affection came with silence as punishment, not yelling, just distance, a cold shoulder, a sudden change in tone, and you spent your energy trying to figure out what you did wrong, because the withdrawal itself was never explained. It just happened, and then eventually it lifted. Until next time. Your boundaries were treated as betrayal. The one time you said, "I don't want to talk about this," or "that hurt my feelings," and when it wasn't met with understanding, it was met with hurt, guilt tripping, or the classic, "after everything I've done for you." You still find yourself seeking approval from people who remind you of them, bosses, partners, friends who are just a little emotionally unavailable. You keep ending up in relationships that require you to perform, to earn, to prove, because that's the only kind of love your nervous system recognizes as familiar. Here's the part that might be hardest to hear. Covert narcissistic parents are often not aware of what they're doing. Many of them were raised the exact same way. taught that love is a transaction, that vulnerability is weakness, that children exist partly to reflect well on the parent. This doesn't excuse the impact it had on you, but it does mean something important. This isn't about assigning blame in a way that keeps you stuck. It's about recognizing the pattern so you can finally stop repeating it in your own relationships, your own friendships, and one day, if you choose, your own parenting. The goal was never to make you angry at your parent. The goal was to make you understand yourself. If even one of these signs felt like looking in a mirror, you're not broken. You're not too sensitive. You adapted brilliantly to a system that asked too much of you and gave too little back. Healing starts with naming what happened, not to stay angry, but to finally stop carrying something that was never yours to carry. If this resonated with you, you're probably not the only one in your family who felt this way. Someone in your life needs to hear this too.